Once again, it is time for a palette ranking or a palette roundup, okay? And so today is not going to really be a ranking, but I'm just going to talk about these palettes. So let's get started. Hey guys, this is Ashley. Welcome on back to my channel. So as I just mentioned, it is time for a palette roundup. I have a few new palettes here. Not as many as I usually have because I think I haven't been picking up as many palettes lately, and I think some of the releases have just been a little bit slower and some things I'm still waiting on. But I thought that we go ahead and we talk about these palettes. Usually I kind of do like a ranking style that was kind of created by Kelsey Brianna J. And it's just a way for me to just kind of go ahead and let you know my final thoughts about these palettes. After I have used them, they've been in my collection. Maybe you've seen them in a palette rotation video, and I just kind of have final thoughts about them, you know? And so let me go ahead and introduce myself before I'm totally carried away. If you are new to this channel, welcome. And if you're oldie but goodie, welcome on back. My name is Ashley. I have a doctorate in pharmacy, and I love makeup, okay? So that's how you get Dr. Ash and her makeup, and eyeshadow really is my jam, but please just call me Ash or Ashley. So, as I just mentioned, I have these palettes right here, and I don't know if I can totally rank them. Like, I've had them for a while. I know how I feel, but they're all so different, but I guess it doesn't even really make sense. But I'm just going to kind of talk about them, and I'll let you know, like, I really do like all of these palettes in my hand. And then it's another palette I want to talk about, but I don't know if I should do a video, and you guys can let me know down below, okay? So, the first palette I'm going to start off with is probably one of the newest palettes to my collection, but if you saw my video, I did get the Heather Austin palette, but I've only had it in the real world for a few days, probably in the YouTube world. This might be over a week or so by the time you see this video, maybe or maybe not. But the first palette I want to talk to you about is the Bloom palette by Klarity Kosmetics. This palette is super gorgeous. This color scheme is to die for, okay? The thing I do not like about this palette is that the pan sizes are so large. That's probably the only complaint I really have about this palette, other than the shade called Once in a Floral just being so flaky. And you saw that in my video when I did it, okay? I have had a chance to use this palette since then, but it is just a really nice overall palette. Of course, it's very pinky. You can get a few kind of everyday monochromatic looks. You know, you got these blurple and the green and this teal and pink and mauve situation here, but the color story is just so gorgeous. The shimmers are really impactful, but what I would say about the shimmers, they do kind of press in a lot. They kind of move around in the pan a lot. As you can see, this one right here, this one moves around in the pan a lot. Not so much this one, Irresistible. You kind of get a lot of sparkle and shine with this, but it doesn't move around so much. And the two that are kind of just stay in place, pick up very well, get a lot of pigment behind these two shimmers are these two right here. But the whole color story is really gorgeous. I think this is a super solid palette by Klarity Kosmetics. Really solid, beautiful release. Only thing like I said about this shade, it is very flaky. I do not like that. So if you use it, you need to probably use it on your finger. You probably need to use some type of glitter glue in order for it to be the most impactful. Not to mention, you probably need to use, like warm it up just a little bit and then put it on. I tried to use it by itself and it just became like disastrous. But overall, I feel like this is a really solid palette. Now I have, I talked about it in the video, and I probably talked about it in my collection declutter video from the beginning of the year. I had tried to try Klarity Kosmetics last year when they came out with their So Mesmerizing palette, and I was just like upset because my palette was broken. I wasn't upset it was broken. It is what it is. But I was just upset like they wanted multiple pictures, and I had to kind of go back and forth emailing them that the shades were broken, and if I sent them one shade or I sent them the palette all together, and they were like, well, we can't even see the shades broken. And I was like, but the palette is so large, so when you try to photograph it, you can't see all the indentations in the palette. And I had matte shades broken as well as a couple shimmers. And so then I sent in individually that the shades were broken, and then they were like, no, but we need to see it together. And I just felt like it was a lot of work just for me to be like, hey, my palette's broken, just make it right. You know, I don't care that it's broken, I'm not giving you any flack, but I'm just like, come on, you know? So they kind of left a bad taste in my mouth, but I saw this palette and I was like, hey, I have not written them off. I want to try this brand. And it's a black owned brand. And every brand has palettes that are broken, but I think it was just so many, I had to send so many pictures just back and forth about the palette being broken that it was just like, whew. But everything was great with this. So I would definitely recommend trying Klarity Kosmetics if you're interested. It's my first time actually really trying it because the So Mesmerizing palette, I ended up just depotting the shimmers and not sticking with those mattes because the mattes were just too light of a pastel for my liking. But the formula is really beautiful. Like I said, I just feel like they should just bring the pan size down and it would be so much better. But other than that, I feel like this is a super solid palette, okay? Oh, and I just wanted to mention, if you wanted to know about this look right here, it is actually the Unearthly Cosmetics Bunnies palette, and this look can be found in my palette rotation volume 4. So I'll try to remember to link that here or down below, but it is from my palette rotation video that was as of lately. And the next palette, okay, so this palette would probably be, it'll probably be number 2 if I really had to rank these, okay? And this is the Angie times Odins Eye Hela palette. So initially when I saw this palette, I thought that it was really beautiful, but then I was like, I don't know, because I have so many greens in my collection. You know, it's just like, well, it doesn't make it any different. But then she started showing off that bottom row, and the bottom row just got me, okay? Like this row and this right here just really makes it pop for me. Now, I did get some very beautiful greens with it. This row also, so it's kind of like, here we go, you know. Now, as far as depth, the palette does have a lot of depth because you have the shade Suit. You have like a shade that's black and sparkly right here where it's like basically you can go out on a night of the town, create a beautiful smoky look. The dual chrome in this shade is very, really beautiful. Also, you have another peach multi-chrome shade, the pinks, the hot pink with the maroon. I'm not such a fan of the lighter pink, and I'm not such a fan of this really light yellow. Because on me, it's kind of like, but that's just my preference. But this green, the shimmers are very nice. The Odins Eye formula is nice. The packaging is on 100% for me. You know, just the detail that Odins Eye always puts in their products. Because look at this, you also have some holographics with this. And then even though the outer packaging is really nice as well. And you have, you know, kind of like the grayed out version, and then you have the colorful version. Now, I know like some people don't particularly care for the theme of this palette. This palette does follow the Norse mythology that is a part of the Swedish culture. Angie is Swedish. Odins Eye is a Swedish brand. And this palette kind of represents like life and death. And Hela is a mythological creature, and it kind of is, you know, it's the afterworld, but it doesn't mean that everybody had a bad life that goes and sees her. It's only a certain subset that sees her, and it doesn't mean that they're going to have a bad afterlife when they go and visit her also. That's what I know about that myth. But overall, I feel like the palette is just super solid. The color story is really, really pretty. And somehow you get a lot of versatility out of this palette. And so I kind of ranked them anyway. So if I'm so out of order because I really didn't plan on ranking them. But if I was to rank this one, it would be number 3. And this is the Plain Jane Remastered palette. This palette is absolutely gorgeous. Like I said, this one is the Remastered palette. And it was available this year. Now, I don't have the first one, and I don't have the anniversary palette. So if you're looking at this palette, I will only pick up this palette if you actually did not own the other 2 palettes. Because the thing about this palette is there are quite a few repeated shades from the first original palette, which I believe is now actually discontinued. So you have about 7 shades that are repeated. And then I think 1 shade is actually from the anniversary palette. And you do, if you have a lot of multi-chromes in this palette is really gorgeous. But if you have a lot of multi-chromes or you have a lot of all shimmer palettes, some of these shades are going to be kind of standard to what you have already. And that's just being honest. This shade right here, which is ACI 12, which is the shade right here, it's very beautiful, formulated really well, lots of slip on it and everything. But if you look at it, it kind of does remind you of the shade VR Sextraterrestrial. That is from Yes, VR Extraterrestrial. That is from Divine Rose 2. But it's gorgeous. I mean, honestly, when you look at it with that green shift. Now, one of my favorite shades is one of the newer shades that's original to this palette, which would be ACI1. I'm not a super pink eyeshadow person, but I feel like this shade is so stunningly beautiful. It is the right type of pink with a small kind of greenish coppery flip, and it looks amazing. I had a lot of fun pairing that with, you know, some my purple blue palette actually from Natasha Denona. And then this shade also that really catches my attention. This shade is just a beautiful champagne shade. The shades are formulated so well. Like the quality of Adept shadows are amazing. So when you get this palette, you're not going to get a bad palette. It's just something to be mindful of if you are, you know, looking at this palette. It is something just to be mindful of if you're looking at this palette, that yes, you will have quite a few, you know, repeated shades. The packaging is gorgeous. I mean, do you see it? The reflection, and their packaging is upcycled vegan like leather, so you don't have to worry about that. Adept Cosmetics, like they produce their products in very clean labs, so I do like that, and I feel like the owner puts a lot of time and care into her brand. So she was definitely on trend. She was like the one who really started all of these shimmer palettes back in 2020 when she had released the original Plain Jane palette. But as far as the other palettes that I've tried today, I feel like it's versatile in my collection, but it's, okay, actually, it's probably not versatile in my collection if we're just going to keep it 100%. It's really not. Because I have a lot of shimmer palettes. So some of these shades do cross over for me, but I am happy to have this palette in my collection. And that's probably for me why it comes in like number 3, okay? Now, my number 1 palette, and okay, so for my number 1 palette, I wasn't ranking them, but now I just ranked them, okay? And it would have to be, you know, my Peacock palette by Sigil inspired Tammy Tenuka, okay? And here's the thing. So it's just a beautiful, stunning palette. This formula is just so, like, everything about the formula is great, okay? Just every single thing about it is pigmented. Even this shade, it pulls deep. It's creamy. The shimmers are shimming. You have a beautiful, like, kind of lightweight duochrome here. And they're very vibrant. Like, the quality of these shadows are just so stunningly gorgeous. Amazing quality. I would kind of consider this quality to be up there with Pat McGrath. And that's how I feel about my other 3 Sigil palettes. Well, I have 3 in the drawer, and I have 1 here that I'm also about to talk about that I have not had a chance to try. But so stunningly gorgeous, okay? Here's the thing, okay? So this is where it gets sticky, and I'm just putting this out here, you know, and I'm very educated as far as the news and what's going on in world events. Sigil Inspired is a Russian indie brand. So this one is very great. And I'm ranking it as number 1. And I did a whole tutorial about how to shop their website because a lot of people were interested after I did my initial 3 palettes, which was the Toad, the Playful Grass Snake, and the Chinchilla. So everybody, you know, this website is hard to navigate. That's why I've never tried the brand prior to now. I was like, okay, I'm actually going to try it because that Playful Grass Snake like palette was like, I want that. You know what I mean? But so they also released the Little Black Glove, and this was their most recent release. So this palette released to our Etsy shop and her regular website, and I purchased this from the regular website. And literally 3 days later, Putin invaded Ukraine, okay? So as far as the brand, I just feel like it's just so sad what's happening. The whole situation is just sad. Like I said, I'm very informed on the news. If you guys don't know, I love watching MSNBC. I can tell you basically what time of the day it is based off who's on air, okay? I'm like, Nicole Wallace on air. She's on air for 2 hours, and she's usually, I'm in Central Standard Time, so she's usually on from like 3 to 5. After that, my boy Ari Melba gonna come on, and then we're gonna have Joy, and we're gonna have some Chris Hayes. So, I mean, it's just like, I know, you know, we got Rachel Maddow, then we got Lawrence, now we got Stephanie Rule. It used to be Brian Williams, and Chris Jansen is hosting the morning slot, but Morning Joe about to go to 4 hours. See, I told you, I be knowing the lineup, okay? They got a new guy, Jose Ballard, you know, I know the Saturday and Sunday folks, I know the comments. I watch MSNBC. I watch MSNBC. I watch Law and Order. I watch Law and Order SVU. I watch Bar Rescue. But that's another video and another time. So, but my point is on a very serious topic. I'm very informed about the events that were taking place prior to Putin invading Ukraine and what is happening now. And it's just very sad, and it's just so frustrating to see the people of Ukraine literally having to flee their homes, having to be refugees, having to go to Poland, who is taking in the most amount of people, and then having to go to Hungary and still be at risk and thinking like, okay, are the NATO countries even safe? We're having to send more troops over to the NATO countries, but we don't want to join the war because of the implications. And it's just so sad. And then all the sanctions that had to come down on the country of Russia, because I mean, Putin he does not care. I mean, let's be honest. He does not care. He does not care about his people. And most of the Russians, they are not in support of this war, okay? Because a lot of people, they have a lot of friends and family that in Ukraine, you know what I mean? But my point is, it's a Russian brand, and I know, like, one of my friends received some very hateful comments underneath her Instagram about posting, you know, a Tammy Tenuka product, and I don't want that play. I'm here for positivity only. I recognize that this is a very delicate situation. I feel bad for both sides because I feel like the Russians are just being strung along, and they have no power. That's a country. They live in an authoritative country. They don't have any power, okay? So I know that a lot of the sanctions are forced to keep the people down, and hopefully that they will uprise and do something with Putin, and he will maybe care because his people are suffering. But I don't think so. And it's very sad what's happened to Tammy Tenuka's brand because she's super suffering because of the sanctions. The ruble is like nothing at this point. She cannot get materials. She put it on her website that she's not able to get materials, and she can't offer like half of the palettes that she wants to. She can't bring the stock back. So right now she's just kind of doing her pigments and everything like that. And some of these things are more expensive, and she just needs the materials, and she can't get them in because of the sanctions. But I ordered this palette. I want to do a video about it, but then I'm like, I don't know. So you guys let me know. And it just might have to just save it for a later time, later date, and that will be fine too once everything clears up. But this is the Little Black Glove palette, and I wanted to show you guys in the order. It's very beautiful, very unique color story, kind of like a dominatrix type of vibe when you looked at the promo shots. But it is gorgeous. First of all, do you see that bright red multi-chrome? And in the middle, that black shade is a multi-chrome as well. And I was just been so acutely aware of things that she's been coming out with ever since I've tried the brand. So she does offer, well, now she can't offer now, but basically when this palette launched, she had the UPS shipping and she had the Russian Post shipping. So I ordered the palette. I paid the extra $20, which would be 20 USD for the UPS shipping, so I could have it. Like, usually her stuff was coming in like about 10 days, 10, 11 days, which is excellent turnaround time. But when the war broke out, I didn't contact her. She eventually contacted us. I know some other people were like, I'm like, she got a lot on her plate. My disposition was like, she got a lot on her plate. Her country is at war, okay? She probably trying to figure out what's going on with her business. She probably trying to figure out what is she going to do. You know, so many companies have pulled out, like, you know. I'm like, she'll contact. So she did contact us, and she said, hey, I cannot send this by UPS because UPS pulled their business out of Russia, but I can send this through the Russian Post. And I was like, okay, girl. And I was just like, oh, I hope I get it. You know what I mean? Like, oh, I'm scared. Like, is the U.S. even going to let it through? And they did let it through. So I got my stuff, and I ordered a couple other pigments. But this palette is stunningly gorgeous, and I hope her brand is able to continue. Let's swatch a cup. Let's just play, okay? So that's why I wasn't going to really do a ranking, but oh my God. Do y'all see this? This is the red shade. Baby, honey. This was just... Take my watch off. Also, see, I don't see my little text messages coming up. Okay. All right. So, honey. 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 Can you... I mean, but for real. But seriously. That is so stunningly gorgeous. And it has a gold/greenish shift to it. And it is very bronze, and I hope you can see it. Then let's see. We also have a gray matte. You know I love my gray mattes. And they're matte. Oh, the mattes are so pigmented. So this is the gray matte. So nice. You know, creamy, buttery, smooth, honey. Everything you want a matte to be, okay? Let's see. Next up, this is my first time really swatching this palette. We're going to jump into this deep purple shade. No, that's our multi-chrome, like our blackish multi-chrome. Oh my gosh. So this kind of reminds me of Blood Moon, but I think this might have more shine than Blood Moon. Maybe, maybe not. It's with these black based multi-chromes that are super black, it's hard to see. But if you can see that, it is a definite shift. And it's really, really pretty. That one feels smooth, but it doesn't feel like it has as much slip as the red one. And then we have a nice purple satin. And I mean, her satins, they feel like literally, if you have the Pat McGrath Decadence palette, that's what these satin shimmers feel like. I mean, honey, she's not playing, honey. She ain't come to play. I'm like, why did I just now start trying this, okay? Got that nice plum shade. I mean, look how easy that just went on. Like, did you see that? I mean, if the makeup aside, the makeup is bomb. Let me change fingers, because now we have the plum matte. Okay, I put that a little further down than I planned to, but really nice. And in my experience, like her lighter mattes you can build them up and make them a little deeper, you know? And I believe you can depot these and take them out, okay? I'm gonna stick it right here. Just really beautiful. Just look at this color story, honey. Like, how are you not excited to purchase this? With this fiery red dual. Oh my gosh. So, you know, I just wanted to talk about that, and it was a lot of backstory, so that's what kind of made me like, I don't think I'm going to rank them or whatever, but I guess I could have, and I did at the end of the day. So, these are the palettes that I have tried recently. Let's see what probably in the next palette ranking, you can definitely expect to see like the Heather Austin palette. Hopefully I'll have my Bridgerton round 2 by then. And let's see, I plan on picking up the Melt Gemini. I've never had a chance to get Gemini. And I plan on getting Gemini 2. So that's like 3 palettes. And then also, I want the Menagerie Sugar Glider palette. And then hopefully my Glaminatrix palettes will show up. I have Sandra Rose I pre-ordered a long time ago, and the Nocturnal palette. So hopefully those will show up. But until then, leave me a comment down below. Please keep it respectful when it comes to that topic. Or just, first of all, just keep it respectful anyway in my comment section, okay? And give this video a big old thumbs up. Hit the notification bell so you know when I come out with another video, which will be very soon. And subscribe to my channel, because you know I would love to have you here in my little makeup family. And with all of that being said, you already know what time it is. It is time for the chat dance. Hey, chat dance. Hey, 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 chat dance. Chat dance. Chat dance. Chat dance. Chat dance. All right, y'all. Bye.